Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Please vote today if you haven't already. Jimmy Kimmel spoke about the importance of voting. In 1948, Harry Truman beat Thomas Dewey. No one expected Truman to get reelected, particularly not the Chicago Tribune. There's that famous Dewey defeats Truman photo. You've heard of this? Yes. And that blunder led to another iconic photo the next day. Dewey says election was rigged, followed by, frankly, Dewey did win this election, and Dewey supporters raid Capitol, poop on floor. Jimmy Fallon said a lot of experts are predicting a red wave on election day. You can tell Joe Biden is nervous because he already hired Rudy Giuliani to challenge the results. Seth Meyers chimed in. President Biden said the midterms are the most important election of our lifetime, and that's saying something coming from a guy who maybe voted for Lincoln. Herschel Walker fired back at Barack Obama. The former president said having been a good football player didn't qualify Walker for the Senate. Walker said he'd put his resume up against Obama's any time. Stephen Colbert said bold and listed their accomplishments. Colbert said Barack Obama was the first black president of the Harvard Law Review, a U.S. senator, president of the United States, won the Nobel Peace Prize, has an Emmy, 2 Grammys, 3 #1 best-selling books, was voted Times Person of the Year twice, has a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal, and killed Osama bin Laden. Not bad, not too shabby. Meanwhile, Herschel Walker's resume says good at football, holds Georgia's single-season pregnancy record, and brain broke. Seth Meyers, the only thing your resume has that his doesn't is typos. Trevor Noah, first of all, it wouldn't even matter if Walker's resume was more impressive than Obama's, because Obama's has a line in his resume that says, not crazy. That carries a lot of weight in a job interview. But also, Obama was president, people. He was president for 2 terms. Herschel Walker can't even carry any of his pregnancies to 2 terms. Wow, Trevor again. I'm kidding. His resume's impressive. I mean, any resume is impressive when you can just make it up, right? I was a cop. I was an FBI agent, a ballerina. I discovered nitrogen. I am nitrogen. The list goes on and on. Whew. So much news to get today, and today's episode will be a little political-ish, in case you can't already tell. Did you vote yet? Please vote. Should be a fun week. This week's host on Saturday Night Live, Dave Chappelle. As soon as that got announced on Saturday, I was actually watching SNL Live, and I'll talk about that in a second. As soon as that got announced, some people like me were like, awesome, Dave Chappelle is a really good host. And other people were like, the non-Dave Chappelle fans. And I understand why you might not be a fan of Dave Chappelle. So it should be a good controversial week for SNL. Let's talk about this week's SNL. Your host was Amy Schumer. Oh my God, that might have been the worst episode since 1980. Now, I know the people that love Amy Schumer get mad at me when I don't praise Amy. I get it. But did you see SNL? That episode was bad. Like really bad. The AV Club wrote, Amy Schumer returns to host a lackluster SNL despite an impending and critical midterm election. This episode felt stale, recycled, and out of date. As a comedian, writer, and actress, expectations were higher than normal, which led to an underwhelming return to hosting. So you can get mad at AV Club, not me. As one of the best-known contemporary comedians working today, the material on this episode felt stale. While updating her act to include her new role as a wife and mother, a lot of the episode felt like recycled material from her upcoming stand-up tour, sketches that were left on the cutting room floor of Inside Amy Schumer in 2016, or worse yet, that she might be saving her best material for her own show. The worst sketch of the night was the cold open. Yeah, and that set a bad tone for the start of the episode that it never really overcame. Amen. I was watching the cold open featuring Joe Biden, played by James Austin Johnson, discussing the midterms. Concerning the lack of star politicians in the Democratic Party ahead of the midterms, Biden introduced a rather random collection of new celebrity candidates. It resulted in a series of half-assed and unimpressive impersonations that seemed desperate to appeal to the widest audience possible while managing to please no one. That's the AV Club writing that, so don't just sour grapes me. This episode was bad. James Austin Johnson, who is wonderful and does a good Biden, but here's the issue. He has to go too quickly because it's TV. If he did Joe Biden at Joe Biden's actual pace and cadence, it would be too slow for TV. So he winds up doing a Biden that sounds too fast, as if you were listening to a podcast at 2.3 speed. But all right, so you come out and the opening sketch stinks, and then Amy comes out and does a monologue that's and then they did this soup sketch. The AV Club wrote, why did they put soup in the front of the episode? It felt so labored, and you could feel they were really trying desperately to make it funny. I felt like Kenan Thompson was trying damn hard to carry that sketch, and it did not work. The news was fine as usual, but the rest of the episode, seriously, maybe the worst episode since 1980. less catty, and I do hope everything is okay here. Amy went on Instagram Sunday and shared that the week was not easy given that her son suffered a health emergency in the midst of rehearsals for the show. This was the hardest week of my life. I missed Thursday rehearsals when my son was rushed to ER and admitted for RSV. Shout out to all the parents going through this right now. I got to be with him the whole day at the hospital, and the beautiful humans at SNL couldn't have been more supportive. Did you watch Weird, the Al Yankovic story? If you were in my phone, if I had your phone number, you got to text me Friday night saying, stop everything, watch Weird right now. Oh my goodness. Weird is amazing. Like stop the podcast and go watch Weird right now if you haven't already. I've yet to run into a human being who didn't absolutely love Weird. As I was watching it, I was like, is this actually going to make a run at the Carlin documentary and somehow be the #1 thing of the year? It didn't quite get there. The third act is a little long and didn't really come together plot-wise, but boy, Weird is fantastic. I have it at #2 on my best things of 2022 list. Really, really, really strong recommendation from me. I'll be talking about Weird all week long, but make sure you go watch that. I also did watch Blockbuster as promised. Now, the reviews were horrific, and I watched it, and I'm like, you know what? This is fine, especially for Netflix. For Netflix, it's Citizen Kane, but it's a nice enough quote-unquote NBC sitcom that happens to be on Netflix. Randall Park is your lead, very charismatic, love him. Melissa Fumero, you know her from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, she's the co-lead, she's great. JB Smoove shows up and is far less annoying than he is in casino commercials. I enjoyed it, and I said to the wife, you'll like this, and the wife said back to me after watching a couple, yeah, I like it. Is it hilarious? No. But does it keep you company for half an hour and you feel kind of better about life when you're done? Yeah, and it made me miss Blockbuster Video. I had reviewed Andrew Schultz's special last week, and I had said it would be all the way at the top of my list, except for all the commercials. Petra shot me a note in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News podcast group, and said, I have a comment about your Andrew Schultz infamous review on the podcast. I understand that you don't like the commercials on the YouTube version, but I needed to let you know that this special was first released as a downloadable paid special through his website, commercial-free, of course. After the special made enough money, he decided to release it for free via YouTube, reason enough to put it higher on your list, in my humble opinion. Thank you. I really appreciate the note, Petra. I also got a similar note on the YouTube page from someone else. I just tried to look it up and I don't see it, but thank you for writing in on the Facebook page. And I think that's a fair criticism of me that I was unfair to Andrew Schultz. I will factor that in when I do finalize the end of the year rankings. I do wish there were a way to put it on YouTube, and I'm sure there is, with less random breaks. Like, do they have to be hardcore every 5 minutes, or could somebody go in and put markers, say, between bits or between thoughts and not in the middle of a sentence? But maybe the move is to throw Andrew some money and download the thing because it's really good. Let me see if I can find out how much it is on his website. No longer for sale. Anyway, it's really good. Watch it on YouTube, but commercials be warned. Kathy Griffin, suspended from Twitter, but found a way around the suspension. She started using her deceased mother's account. Free Kathy was the hashtag that was tweeted under Maggie Griffin's Twitter account. That account hadn't been used since 2019. After Kathy was banned from Twitter after she changed her display name to Elon Musk, which violated the terms of service surrounding impersonating someone. In a follow-up tweet, Kathy replied to Elon Musk after he said that going forward, any Twitter handles engaging in impersonation without clearly specifying parody will be permanently suspended. Kathy wrote, I'm back from the grave to say hashtag free Kathy. Elon Musk wrote back, actually, she was suspended for impersonating a comedian. Zing. Kathy replied, I mean, you stole that joke, you a-hole. People have been posting that joke for hours, you hack. Look, please do a better job running this company. It used to mean something. This is Kathy Griffin, by the way. Elon Musk said if she wants her account back, she'll have to pay the $8. Now the political section of today's podcast. Michigan Republican gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon said in a debate that a man approached her and said he was switching from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party because he was upset about sexually explicit material in his child's school library. Stephen Colbert joked that the man wasn't real. But it turns out the man might be real after all, and he's not happy that Stephen Colbert suggested he doesn't exist. Former Michigan Democratic House candidate Khalil Othman claims to be the man in Dixon's story. Othman did not find the joke funny that someone suggested he does not exist. Othman said, it's absolutely disrespectful when you deny the existence of someone who's just a concerned parent that voiced his opinion along with thousands of people who went out to the different Board of Education meetings saying, we don't want these sexually explicit books in our school. Jordan Klepper spoke to The Hollywood Reporter about covering the midterms. He said, I don't know of any other late night shows that are at these events as they're happening. I feel like it's almost an anthropological examination of what's happening in the country. You can pass around an article about armed people in Arizona watching ballot boxes, but The Daily Show goes there. I'm with those people. I'm talking to them. That's what we report with a sense of humor and satire. I do think I can provide, and The Daily Show can provide, what you don't see on other late night shows. There's also the nimbleness that perhaps a news organization doesn't, cut through with certain traditions that are there for good reasons, but comedy's always been a way to get to the truth faster than other roundabout matters. I think as a comedian, your job is to read the room, and the room is on fire right now, so that's why I'm interacting with all the chaos that's happening around us. As a human and a citizen, you've got to push back when you see BS, and that's something Jon Stewart instilled on The Daily Show. It's a war on BS. I'm not a journalist. I'm an improv comedian who's on The Daily Show. When I go out and talk to people, I take that very seriously, but I wear my biases on my sleeve. I don't have to wait and listen to a politician, talk through his talking points, and then bite my tongue. I have the ability to push back, and I think that's what I get to do with the rallies. I don't want it to come from a point of anger, but it does come from a point of frustration, and I hope to understand the logical fallacies and arguments that some of the people have. Perhaps it's a luxury that I get to do that when I see other journalists sitting back. Donald Trump is a great example. One of his great weapons is calling on somebody else and never answering the question, never having to respond to a follow-up. When I sit with these people, I get to follow up. I get to push until you get the answer. I think it's incredibly important in this day and age because we're all becoming experts on evading the truth and finding the quickest truth that makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. But if you can get past the BS of validating your own opinions and get to somebody and try to understand what they actually believe and what their BS is, I think that's what I'm aiming for when I go out there. I approach these things with a lot of prep. We have a great team, so I feel like I'm going in, at least I'm mentally prepared to deal with some of those wild things. But America's the most creative place on earth. My Lord, there's a Marvel Universe worth of creative thoughts at every rally I've ever been to. It's so funny because people will be like, you're just looking for the wildest stuff. The pond is stocked well. I walk out there and I'm just asking, what do you think? And suddenly old ladies in Wisconsin are like, well, I think JFK Jr. is the president right now. And you're like, I'm not even asking you about that. We're talking about Roe v. Wade. I try to find humor and levity and beauty in the creativity of Americans out on the road. And then a little bit of bourbon and stoicism helps it go down. Let's take a look at some of the shows at the New York Comedy Festival tonight. Their website isn't that good. Immigrant Jam at Caveat, The Shakedown, Bowery. The World According to Comedians features Liza Traeger. That's at Caroline's. Gastor Almonte presents The Sugar. Without a Country with Corinne Fisher and Shay is the midterm election watch-along. That's at Doped Up Comedy Club. Benji, an interactive intervention. Pretty Major, hosted by Zach Zimmerman at Union Hall. Funny Women of a Certain Age at Stand Up New York. Joyelle Nicole Johnson and Ashton Womack at the Fat Black Pussycat. The Foulmouth Comedy Show at Greenpoint Beer and Ale Company. Pete Lee headlines New York Comedy Festival at the Comedy Cellar. Tori Piskin presents The Prettiest Girl at the Learning Disabled School. That's at the Brooklyn Comedy Club. 10 Years of The Stand. That's at The Stand. HBO Max presents Ian Lara and Friends at Chelsea Music Hall. I Never Promised You a Rose Garden with Joe DeRosa at Black Cat, Lower East Side. Isabel Hagen does an hour at the Tiny Cupboard as part of the New York Comedy Festival. That's at the Tiny Cupboard. Well done. You get 2 points. NFTS, I'll clean this up. Nice bleepin' boobs. But you can figure out what NFTS stands for. That's Leah Lamar at The Stand. The Last Drop at Bowery Electric. There's so many shows. This is all tonight. New York Comedy Midtown, Inconceivable. Blake Weber's TED Talk, How to Kill the Game and Handle Your Haters, is at Caveat. Pauly Shore is at Asylum. Battle Rap at Caroline's. Asif Ali at Union Hall. Comedians on Edibles doing crowd work at the East Village. And Emily Wilson Fixed at Asylum. Boy, what should we go see? Let's go see Comedians on Edibles doing crowd work. That sounds like it'd be a good time. That's at 10:30. And the only reason I know what time this one's on is because they put it in the cover art. This is not the best website. New York Comedy Festival, hire the 4th best person from Just for Laughs who does their website and have them do your website, please. Speaking of Just for Laughs, if you're in Canada on the CBC tonight, 9 Eastern, you can watch Just for Laughs 40, the anniversary special, featuring extraordinary presenters and performances from some of today's most influential names in comedy, as well as a few surprise appearances. And Colin Mockery tweets, "Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying the current season of Who's Line? In January, we shoot our final season. Thank you for all the support over the years." And that's your comedy news for today. Please go vote, and I'll see you here tomorrow.